Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
How would you like to make your first million? And today we have with us Maggie Rose Macar, which is the founder of Zant, a platform that helps mental health professionals manage the practice more efficiently, save them time, and they are allowed to give back low-income individuals and students. So I think, Maggie, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Harry, thank you so much for having me. So yes, my name is Maggie Rose, and I am the founder of Zant. And just as you said, we help mental health providers, also coaches and counselors across the country. We're based in the US right now, but also expanding worldwide very soon. And for us, what we do is help give these providers, coaches, counselors, therapists, 80% of their time back, when right now 80% of their time is focused on admin headaches, marketing, PR, everything in between to manage their practice. We help give them that time back. So instead of 20% of their time in sessions, they're now spending 80% of their time in sessions. They're better serving their own clients, but then they can also give back through different programs that we offer, a marketplace of young people in need for as little as $25 a session.
Wow, fantastic. So Maggie, tell us, what are the 5 steps to make your first million?
All right. So, you know what? 5 steps. The first thing that immediately came to my mind is being in person. I know that is so controversial right now, but something that I can confidently say today is you put me in front of anybody, you put me in a room full of people, I'm going to shake as many hands as I can. I'm going to leave with as much opportunity as I can. Mm-hmm. I think as a founder, we're all trying to be efficient with our time. We're all trying to almost not go out in person because we want to reach out cold because we know that we can blast 1,000 emails in a minute. But the truth is that I think today, especially since COVID, being in 2024, going into 2025, I think that I have learned the power of being in person. I mean, just events, the last 3 events I've gone to, just one after the other, we've had investors who have actually invested into our company who I've met through those events, just being able to shake their hand, build that trust, and work with them. So the first thing I would say is get out. Go to as many events as you can, be in person, shake as many hands as possible, but you also got to work on your handshake. You can't go out with a weak handshake. You got to come from a position of power always and be in person. Soak that up. I would say the next, kind of tip and trick that I would say in that 5 is focusing in on your operations and your process, your standard operating procedures. As boring as that sounds, it is so vital to a startup. Building a process, having documents, I don't care how many documents you have, if you have those organized and you have procedures that anybody can pick up and learn, it's going to help your company, it's going to help you grow, it's going to help you scale, because that training process for the next person you bring into your company, you don't want to have to spend so much time holding that person's hand. You want to give them those procedures. You want to know what happens if something else happens, something goes wrong, something goes right. You want to know where to go. So focus in on those procedures, even if you're just spending time trying to figure out which procedures to build. That's really, really vital. My third is test and experiment. There's actually this really great book I recommend to any and every founder, period, especially if you're just starting out. It's called The Lean Startup, and it's by Eric Ries. It is so worth the read. And something he does focus on in that book is the fact that as a founder with a product, you need to experiment. I think as founders, we try to race the clock to get something out there as soon as possible. And we're almost building something, and he talks about this in the book as well. You're building something that you think other people need. But the real learning and finding that product market fit actually starts when you launch that product and you focus on experimenting, because it's not going to be perfect. But those experiments and the data points that you can collect doing surveys, having your early adopters, experimenting, testing, changing things, your product's going to evolve. And that product's going to evolve into a product market fit that you're going to be able to build a business model around. Another thing is building the right team. I think many founders start at the same place where they're like, I have no idea how to build a team. I've got my own advice on how to build that team and where to find those people, but everybody's going to have their own unique way of approaching. It could be meeting somebody at events. It could be working with interns who end up growing in your company, who you end up, making them your first hires. It could be so many different avenues of finding that team. But with that team, those people, I think it's a misconception to think that your founding team should not put in almost as much work as you do. There's a difference between your founding team and your first employees, and you want to build your founding team. They're not going to put in every blood, sweat, and tear that you shed for your company, but they might be able to get really close, and those are the people that you want. And you know what? I also will throw in another one here, which is that I really highly recommend every founder works with an executive or leadership coach. It's actually something that at Zant we offer founders. We work with a lot of entrepreneurs. Unfortunately, as founders, this road is lonely, right? And it's something that we feel very misunderstood in. It's something that can feel very distant from other people. And so I highly recommend get an executive coach, work with a leadership coach. That isn't for people who have the luxury to have those type of professionals in their life. You can go to Zant, you can find a professional. I'm happy to set you up with somebody. I've been working with somebody. It's that third party person who is not your family, is not a friend, is not going to judge you, but instead their sole purpose is to level you up as a leader. And that will help you think differently about KPIs and data points, as well as achieving your first million. So, and then going above that million. So I really highly recommend that you work with a coach. And I think I might have given you a bonus one in there, but those would be my 5, for founders, entrepreneurs today, just to get started.
Wow, I love the 5-step, Maggie. That's amazing. So now tell us a little bit, a little bit more about yourself. So what happened? Why do you become an entrepreneur? Do you have a family? Somebody in your family is an entrepreneur? Something happened? A friend had an accident? What happened? Why you want to become a founder, a tech founder, women in tech and founder? Do you know how complex it is? Do you really knew in the mess that you were getting into? It's very risky, but you. So what happened? Tell us.
Yeah, you know what? I never ever thought I would be an entrepreneur, and my story is a little sad. It's actually very sad, but about 7 years ago, I was on track. I was studying in school. I was completely financially independent. I didn't have my family in my life for a little bit, and felt very alone. Was going through a lot just as a young person, dealing with different stressors that my peers didn't have to go through that I was going through. So I already was dealing with a lot that I didn't really know how to cope with. I thought I wanted to be an attorney, by the way. So that would have been the career I probably would have gone down. And during that time in my life, I was working full time in New York City, nothing fancy. I was just a server. So I was just waiting tables, and that was paying for my college, and that was paying for my livelihood. And it was just work, school, sleep, repeat. It was just this grind of almost survival in a lot of different ways. And then unfortunately, during that time, I lost a really close friend of mine to suicide. And when that happened, I had so much difficulty coping with that loss. And I had so much difficulty understanding something that I would never understand, that I hit my rock bottom. I wasn't going to school. I was having a lot of trouble going to work, and finally realized I need to talk to somebody. But no, that was not my first, reaction. Wasn't, oh, let me talk to somebody. Let me find a therapist. Oh, I'm hurting. That wasn't it. It was going through these motions and dealing with so much, and then realizing I'm not the same person anymore. And I feel so lost and broken. I'm scared of what could happen next. And so I went online, just went to Google, just started searching for therapists. This was years ago, before COVID, before we had different resources, before everybody was using different apps on your phone. And so I just went to Google, and I was endlessly searching. contacted so many people. And I think a lot of people underestimate the amount of energy that it takes to contact people and tell the same story and talk to so many people to try to beg for an opportunity, whether it's I couldn't afford something or I can't wait longer than 6 months, which there were 6 month waiting lists that I was being put on with different therapists. Yeah. And so, long story short, I ended up getting very lucky. And I had one therapist who said, listen, Maggie, if you actually work with me and take the time to dedicate to this battle, which is going to be an uphill battle for a little bit, I think I can help you. And I'm willing to do that for $10 a session.
Wow.
And that just completely changed my life. No, I did not all of a sudden go, boom, there's a company. But what happened through that journey was, I went back to school. I changed my major to psychology. My pain turned into passion. And I realized I had this sense of urgency to do something for other people and help young people who are struggling. I had no idea it would turn into Zant. And it took that evolution of myself, that evolution of working with nonprofits and working with advocacy groups and trying to understand really why the system was so fragmented and broken to begin with, to then go through COVID and come out of that and realize there's got to be a way to connect young people with therapists who are willing to give back for as little as, at the time, $20 a session. And that's how we started. Zant ended up being a way to connect people and evolved. Look at where we started in the beginning of this conversation. I said to you, we are now helping mental health professionals, coaches, and counselors manage their practice in one place and enrolling them into programs and giving them a way to give back. And that evolution started with a simple application that said, therapists who want to give back, join us. People in need who need services, join us. And as we evolve, we realize we can make the greatest impact by helping those who help other people. That's what helps us help people. And so, yeah, that's the evolution. I never thought I would be an entrepreneur, but here I am. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs start with something that's very close to their heart and starts with something that, they say there has to be a solution. I'm going to be the one to do it.
Yeah, like I shared with you before the broadcast, like we are in the in the process to interview over 5,000 entrepreneurs, and some entrepreneurs, that's the story is very similar. They have a problem themselves that they trying to fix it. They couldn't find a solution in the market, so they
Yes.
kind of work it out themselves, and then they realize, hey, if it was done hard for me to find this, why I don't create something that can actually help other people to solve the same problem that I solve for myself. Now, I think that the job that you're doing and this tech company that you're building, it have a huge potential because it can save a life, right? And the price of the life is literally priceless. I think that you can put a price to anything. Some people say, well, a lot of everything has a price. Well, life is priceless. Yeah, all the multimillionaires that I know, if I call them, they would be able to give me all the money they have just to live one more day. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I haven't this absolutely. So, and I think that I want to acknowledge you for your story, because you did something really brave, which is seek for help, right? I think that it takes courage to do that. And unfortunately, 90%, 98% of the people, when they are in this situation, it's not your fault, where you're living, what happened with your parents, what happened with your family. Sometimes as a teenager, some people have to deal with, with tough things, right? And because you're very young, you start to absorb, we can call it this negative baggage. It goes accumulating.
Yes.
And until you don't realize that that you do have to work on yourself and you do need help in order to get out of this situation, is not too many people, unfortunately, is that brave that said, okay, I recognize that I have a problem and I'm going to work on it and I'm going to fix it, especially if they're very young. So it's
Sure.
very easy to find other friends that they are depressed, other friends that they are going down and go in this negative mode. And it's very difficult to get out of that. The next step is alcohol, drugs, you name it. And some people commit suicide because of the huge depression. Yeah. Now, technology can help to save life because, like you said, with the right professional, with the right people that allow you to reconnect with yourself, to try to find yourself again, and um, and to try to find a new path and to get your
Mm,
power again, right? There, this is something that is valuable, and different mental health issues need different professionals. Okay, so now we live in the knowledge and information era. So we have hundreds of thousands of specialists. So everybody can have an issue, can find the right therapists that can actually help them, a right professional. And so I think that you have a great business that actually
thank you.
you are providing huge value to society and you're helping a lot of people. Now, mental health, let's talk about mental health because there is not only mental health issues in the young people. We have mental health issues in the young people. We have mental health issues in companies. We have mental health issues in
Sure.
charity. We have mental. So the mental health is in UK, it's a huge thing, and we find a lot of challenges, and companies are desperately looking for solutions how to improve the mental health of all the employees and even in the customer experience. So do you guys are thinking to expand the range rather of the young people, but also to corporate, or you think that you want to stay in the nature of just helping the young people?
Yeah, I think first off, thank you so much for everything that you just shared. I really do appreciate that. And I think something that we try to share with people as a message overall is that not everybody has a mental illness, but everyone has mental health. And I think that
Absolutely.
that's really important for people to understand that, there's still a huge stigma surrounding mental health, mental illness, recovery, being able to find support and work with support. And just because we talked about it more during COVID doesn't mean that that stigma is gone. So I think that there still is a huge stigma, and we need to talk more about mental health and
Mm-hmm.
mental well-being as
Mm-hmm.
something that we all struggle with,
And
right?
be
Whether,
open.
again, yes, 100%. I think for any of the entrepreneurs who are listening to this as well, we are actually statistically more inclined to have mood disorders, personality disorders. We're more inclined to struggle with depression, anxiety, high stress levels. And some of those statistics are 3 to 4 times more than the average person.
Yeah,
So
tell me about
as
it.
yeah, I mean, it's true. All of us can understand that we're doing something that most people, if you have friends in your life, you have family in your life, I'm sure that most people on this
Mhm.
podcast, people who are listening to this, you can understand when I say it's common that most people don't understand what you're doing. And that friction is really confusing and difficult because you have to stand up every day and go against the grain and say, I'm going to continue to pursue this. I see the vision even when nobody else does. And even though that in itself shows grit and perseverance and tenacity, and that's what you need to grow a successful company, that journey is very, very lonely and separating. And so, with mental health, yes, we are expanding into companies, we are expanding into universities and colleges. With corporations, we actually are starting not just with large corporations off the bat, we're actually also starting with startups.
Mhm.
A lot of
Yeah,
startups who, like, as you're scaling your team, right, you don't have a lot of money to invest
you
into
got it.
wellness programs or support. And again, when you're building your team, maybe you're not just going, here I am as a founder and here are my employees. You're going, here I am as a founder, here's my founding team, and then here are my employees. And so your founding team, they're going to experience maybe anywhere from 60 to 80% of the stress level that you experience as a founding team member. So you still want to give them something that can help them. And that's where we step in and say, is it executive coaching? Is it leadership coaching? Is it life coaching? Is it
Mhm.
counseling services? Right. So, yes, we are expanding into companies. We're expanding as little as that startup stage where you need us most to say, hey, listen, this is going to be hard, but we've got support. We've got you covered. Join our team, and here's our offerings. We help there, and we also help larger companies, and especially companies that say, hey, listen, I need different services. I need different opportunities. Not every employee needs counseling services. Some employees need executive and leadership coaching. And
Mhm.
that's where we really meet people where they're at. And we give them options to choose from that will support them in that period of their life, and that stage of their life, and that stage of transition, if they're in a stage of transition. So, yeah, absolutely. I
I'm
mein,
glad,
for us,
Maggie. Yeah, I'm glad that you
yes,
raised this point about the mental health with the entrepreneur, because there is something that nobody talks about. Yeah,
we don't.
we do talk a lot about in this podcast, but nobody talks about this, and people don't even understand why an entrepreneur is gonna have a mental health issue. Well, let me tell you something, right? When you start in a company, when you start in a
Yes,
company, right, you need to wear all the hats because you don't have resources, yeah, and you have to do everything by yourself. And then because you
yes,
don't have authority and nobody believes you and you don't have credibility, you're gonna find your first client, and your first client not gonna pay you, and your first supplier you're gonna have problems. And this is how you're gonna evolve and develop what we call it the skill, because we believe that
yes,
entrepreneurs is a skill. The more you practice, the better you become. It's like driving. If there is no book that you read that you are a good entrepreneur, it doesn't work like that. It's like driving or swimming. The more you practice,
yep,
the better you become. And by developing this skill, we as entrepreneurs, we accumulate something that we call it the negative baggage, right? If something happened with the client that doesn't pay you, ask you for discount. Now you think there's something wrong with you. And then something happened with the supplier, you think there's something wrong with you. And then you start to judge yourself. And at the same time, you're wearing all the hats, and you're going to bed at 2 a.m. and then you wake up 6 a.m. and you are like that for 2 3 years. I was 4 years in a row like that. Like I'm waking up with the laptop in my laps. I'm like, what this
yep,
computer is doing here? And I remember that I was, and clearly,
yep,
and affect your mental health, because also you don't have weekends, you don't have time to talk with your mom, with your friends, with family. You're building a company, and sometimes when you don't have support, I didn't know, like I have a problem, I solve it for myself, exactly the same story. I didn't know what means an entrepreneur. I became an entrepreneur by accident when I did my property business. I started my property business to save money to don't pay my rent, if that makes sense, right? So because it was too expensive, and I built a property business, so sold over 5 million. So anyway,
wow,
the whole point is that all this negative baggage that you accumulate when you build a company, and as a founder, especially you that you're in technology, is really tough. One out of five of people that we do the interviews in this podcast, they're actually tech people. Yes, so clearly it's
mm,
an area that is very successful, and people, can create big companies and make a lot of money.
sure.
Nobody talks about the risk, how risky and
Oh my goodness,
tough
yes,
how
so
tough
much risk.
is tech, and to find the investor and to get the traction. I invest in tech companies, I can tell you firsthand. I'm on the space, so I know exactly from A to Z what's going on. Is hard. You have to be very strong. You have to be able to build the team. Sometimes you build someone in the team that is not the right person, and you have to adapt to it. And then so all this uh, goes into the head of the entrepreneur. And
Hmm.
again, your same process, Maggie. If the entrepreneur is not able to say, okay, I need help, I had to work on this, I need to find a company like you that, that can guide me, can give me some executive coaching, something, I need to work on myself. Then you know what happened, all this anger, all this frustration, it will be reflected in your co-founders. Your co-founder will reflect into an employee. Will be very difficult to get a company to move forward. And sometimes not even the product. I seen it myself. Companies with very good product, but we call it the culture, right? So the culture of the whole company is so rotten that is
Yeah.
sad that the product is good, but the culture is so rotten that it's going to be almost impossible to the companies to go ahead. I see it a lot in tech companies like this. But why the culture gets so rotten is because the co-founders, the founders, they're very young, they don't have experience. And what we're talking about, all these stress or intense that takes a bit the company, if they don't work on themselves, then it get reflected in the team, in the culture, in the clients. So everybody's angry. The clients are angry, the suppliers are angry, the team is angry. Everybody's how we call it, no unhappy with everyone. You know what I mean? And I think that the bigger responsibility is the founder. If the founder doesn't take the step that he had to work on himself, and trust me, I had to work on myself.
Mm.
I have to work on
Yep.
myself. I reached a point I was angry with everyone, with my dad, with everyone. Sometimes I was, why I'm so angry? You know,
Hmm.
I was so angry that I didn't even know why I was angry, you know?
Yeah.
And
You
this
know
did
what,
accumulate for years, right?
Harry, I think it's really interesting that you're saying this because, I think as an entrepreneur, something that we're constantly grappling with is the fact that we hold the vision, right? So we have to convince people about the vision, and we have to paint a picture that only we can see. We really are the only ones who can see the picture. Other people might kind of get it. It's like you're trying to describe, something you see on the side of the road almost, right? You're trying to describe it to somebody. They might kind of get it because they're using their own imagination to create this image, but you remember what you saw, right?
Huh?
And so you have to build that. And I think that as a founder, um, don't wait until the moment that you realize that you're upset or angry or that you're lashing out or that you're having trouble and you're separated. Don't wait until that moment. Make
Ah,
this a part of your checklist as a startup to have somebody to talk to. You need
mhm.
that person because, and I think too, I want to mention actually that as you were talking, when I first started looking for a professional, my journey, I told you earlier, I was working with a therapist and I worked for that therapist for years to really go through the trauma and coping and grief that came with the loss of my friend
Exactly.
and other things in my life, right?
Release
But
all that and let all that go,
yes,
which is very difficult because we hang on into it, and
yes,
it's very difficult to let that go. You know, when you get hurt so hard, this goes inside your brain, your soul, everything, and it's hard to let that go. And until you don't let that go, this is showing off everywhere in your life. It's showing off in your bank account,
yes,
in your relationship, at work. It will show up everywhere until
everywhere.
you don't let that go. But also, Maggie, sometimes it's ego that the entrepreneurs,
It is
in the tech
100%.
space, yeah,
Yes.
oh, I'm the super entrepreneur and this, I don't need help. And
Hmm.
and let's speak the truth, right? You have to let the ego go and work on yourself. Like I said, I don't know any successful entrepreneur that haven't worked on themselves. Some
Yes.
of them
I
go to
think,
the gym, some of them doing some exercise in the morning, some of them go for a walk. Now I'm walking a lot. It's helping me a lot with my mental health. I'm walking kilometers and kilometers. It's helping me a lot, by the way. Yeah, to release. Yeah. So
good.
if somebody, it's a successful entrepreneur, come to you and say, "Well, I'm very successful. I'm doing this," and they say, "I never work on myself." I don't think so. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen. I haven't found one yet. All of them,
I think,
yeah.
yeah, the thing is that we as entrepreneurs build our ego as a coping mechanism because we
Mhm.
want to feel powerful because we feel like we're not understood. And so and you want to feel like you're the best because you see the vision and you know that you've got something that's amazing. But I will tell you that as an entrepreneur, after working with that therapist for many years, I actually got to a point where my therapist retired. And I had no idea
Oh,
what was I going to
what
do,
I
because
do?
what do I do,
Who's
right?
gonna
And
help
so
me?
exactly. And conveniently, we were launching our app, and I actually went to our own app and I found a
Really?
coach, and I've been working with that person. And the coach is obviously very different than the therapist, but with that coach, having somebody to go to, even if my weekly check-in with that coach is really great, it's a good thing. You don't have to always come to a session in your worst space, but you have a space to go to if you're not your best. And I think that as a entrepreneur, you want to feel empowered, which creates this feeling of power. And that ego is only going to get you so far because, like you said, if you're not working on yourself, you can't reach that 10% threshold, which is successful entrepreneurs. 90% of startups fail. And I think that many of them probably fail. This is just my assumption, but I believe that many of them fail because one, they might lack certain grit, or tenacity qualities to push through and be resilient and know that there is no turning back. When you start a company, there is no turning back. You are in it until the end, no matter what. But past that, in order to get there and in order to climb that mountain to that 10%, you have to evolve yourself. You have to work yourself. You have to talk to somebody. And it doesn't have to be a therapist, it can be a coach. It doesn't have to be a coach, it could be a therapist, but you have to talk to somebody. I also really highly recommend finding a tribe. I know that sounds annoying to some people who are like, ugh, I don't have time to go out and find a tribe of people. Listen, as a woman who is an entrepreneur, we only get 1.6% of capital in the United States right now. It's a major
I agree
issue.
with you.
Fundraising is challenging for
Women in
everybody,
tech,
but
very challenging. UK also big,
yes.
huge problem because we find it in women in tech that the funding have nothing to do with the boys. They give way too much funding to the boys, and women in tech they struggle to get funding for no reason. It was a year ago. Yeah, I interviewed a year ago the Minister of Finance of Zimbabwe. It was,
Oh, wow.
this is what he told me. Text, they have a project that he put in place in Zimbabwe, that they were doing loans to the farmers. So they were giving the loan to a farmer. The farmer were planting some vegetables, whatever. They were selling the
Sure.
thing. They were paying back the loans. And the Minister of Finance told me, Harry, we have 80%, 90% of the women, they are paying full the loans. They ask for loan again. They grow everything again. They pay back, and
There you go.
the reliability against men, it doesn't make, is incomparable.
Yeah.
So he told me that. He told me, so for us, our government is very happy to lend money for women because this is what the data is showing, that they're more responsible, that they take care, probably they have children, so they cannot risk to fail the loan because they want to grow, X, Y, and Z, right? So
Yes, of
still I
course.
don't understand in this tech venture capital environment why women are so underfunded. And I think that we need to talk about the topic. For that, we have to do another podcast because I will love to talk about this topic with you because, we have um, to raise our voices and to talk more about this because I've met
Mhm.
brilliant tech entrepreneur women, yeah, and they're as powerful as the men. Actually,
Yeah.
boys. So a lot of tech companies that I see is full of boys all the time. Yeah, you see women in tech, you see more diverse. You see women, you see men. Anyway, so yeah,
True. And actually, women statistically, they do more with less capital because we've had to.
yeah.
So, you give a woman $100,000 check, that woman's going to go a lot further with that $100,000 than, your typical male counterpart might. And we see that to be very true. And I would say, as a woman in tech, as a woman entrepreneur, period, if there are women listening to this podcast or watching this podcast who are entrepreneurs, stay strong in that. build your resiliency, keep going. There's no turning back, but also find other women, find other groups. I actually will also say to any of the women listening to this, find me on LinkedIn, Maggie Rose Macar. My last name is spelled Macar, because I also work with another female founder, and we have a group of women. We hold events online and in person to bring women entrepreneurs together. So if you're looking for a space, find me online. I'm happy to help wherever I can. And we love bringing other women
Fantastic.
into our circle. You
Absolutely.
have to find your tribe. You have to talk to each other. You have to support
Absolutely.
each other.
And I will find the money for you girls. Yeah. If nobody give you the
All
money,
right. Hey,
I'll
I'm
find it
counting
for you.
on it.
Yeah. I
I'm
do
going to
know a
keep
lot
you
of
to your
people.
word.
Yeah. I do know a lot of people, so they listen to me. So we are gonna find the money for you guys, for all of you. Yeah.
Sounds
Or at
great to
least
me.
make
Let's do
some
it.
phone calls. At least make some phone calls with people that have the access to the capital. Yeah.
There
So
you go.
I believe that yeah, we do have to support women in tech. I'm a big believer of that, and in UK we work with a lot of tech. There is the Tech Week in London. There is one day specifically for women in tech and
Yep.
social responsibility. We talk about this topic a lot because people think that social responsibility is only to save plastic and it's more than that. It's inclusion.
Yes.
It's looking after the mental health of the employees. Is to hire a team with diversity and regardless if you're Chinese, black, whatever. So a lot of things goes in these social responsibility companies. Where my partner Lily, she has um,
Mm,
a podcast, Awakening Titans, and she launched
mm,
a brand with Marie Diamond from the movie The Secret, Global Conscious Entrepreneur, and they have a big movement about raising, women and men to make sure that we are entrepreneurs, but global conscious in a 360 way, right? So, Maya, I
yes.
want to thank you so much for this amazing company that you have. I love it. Yeah,
Thank you.
I find you really powerful. Yeah,
Thank you.
and I think that you are very passionate about what you're doing. I can see because
Mm.
your eyes are shining every time that I ask a question about the mental health and how you're helping these people and so on. So you really love what you're doing, and I think that you know better than anybody the value that this can provide and the big transformation that what you're doing can make in people's life because you experience on the
Mm,
first person. I think this is a beautiful story, and
thank you.
you experience on the first person and for you entrepreneurs listening the podcast tech women in tech founders tech founders to sum up I think it's important what Maggie and I stressed today. Every single entrepreneur have the duty to work on yourself, on your mental health. There is no such a thing that, oh, I don't need help from anybody. It's not happening. You will be lying to yourself. You do need someone, a coach, a mentor, someone to talk with you to allow you what we talk. It's a normal process to release all this negative baggage and all the stress that building a company takes. And the people say, well, no, I don't have time for this. I don't have time to find a group of people. I don't have time to find a coach. I'm very busy running my company. Well, if your mental health is not there, remember 98% of the success for your company is in your mind. So if your head is not operating 90%, 100, it doesn't matter that you work day and night. Is gonna be very, very difficult because you're gonna be so exhausted, so angry, and so tired that you're gonna you it will show up everywhere in your clients, in your employees, and everything. And this is the truth. I'm telling you because I did experience that building my own company at the beginning. And I didn't even know that help existed. Like Maggie, at least she looked in internet. I didn't even know what was a coach, what was a therapy. I find it later on. I started to work this at the end, but I did struggle a lot, and I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that I was tired. I was not sleeping too much, and I was angry and tired and in bad mood and running the company with like that. Well, your clients can be will become in bad mood, and also your people working with you as well. So I have to make a drastic change on myself in order to turn around the situation in my company that actually worked out very well. Okay, so thank you so much, Maggie. Any last message for women in tech?
No, I would say thank you so much, Harry, for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's been such a pleasure. And I would say, for any women in tech and any entrepreneur listening just across the board, just keep going. Just remember, have tunnel vision, focus on the goal. You see the vision. A lot of people won't see it, but you see the vision. Just keep pushing, keep going. There is no turning back. You got this. There's resources.
Thank you so much, Maggie, and for every single one of you listening in Apple or in Spotify, or also following us our social media. See you in our next episode of Unstoppable: How Brave Entrepreneurs like Maggie may break that wall and make the first million. Bye for now.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.